Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. I'm really excited to welcome you into this episode because this one is all about fairies. Well, it's a couple of fairies chatting. It's about a lot of things. We talk about spiritual awakening. We talk about boundaries with your family. We talk about all kinds of divination. And the we I am referring to is a beautiful, lovely soul whose name is Nilsa Mehta. She had her spiritual awakening in 2018 and actually didn't even realize what she was, so to speak, until 2019. And then she came out of that psychic closet in 2020 and started her business, which is called Fairytales and Cocktails. She has a YouTube channel. She has a wonderful Instagram, and that's how I met her, on Instagram. And she loves Disney. She loves Disney. She loves creating all kinds of divination tools. She's very, very creative. She has an Etsy store. And by the way, as we move into this conversation, I want to encourage you to check the description here because there is a coupon. There is like a promo code for Nilsa's Etsy store, 15% off. And she said it doesn't expire. So whenever it is that you listen to this, if Nilsa has an Etsy store still with her pendulums and all of her different handcrafted divination tools, then you can grab a sweet little discount there. So without further delay, welcome into this fairy pixie dust scented experience of my conversation with Nilsa Mehta, and I'll chat with you on the other side. Well, welcome, Nilsa. I have everyone, you're going to have to watch the video. If you're listening to the audio, you're going to have to watch the video when we put it on YouTube because I love your background. It's so awesome.
Thank you. It's from Scarface.
You've got a Minnie Mouse. You've got a beautiful pink background, and then you've got a dream catcher that just like pulls it all together. It's really awesome. What does it say in this sign? I can't see it.
Oh, it says the world is yours.
Ooh, from Scarface. I like it. You find your inspiration where it works, right?
It's a reminder.
Well, I met you on Instagram, and as I recall, I think I started following you because your handle is Fairytales and Cocktails, and I'm like, yep, I don't know, but I'm into it. Like, seriously, because
the best things in life.
And I was all about it, and then you gave me a read at Pop. It was on Instagram, and it said that you were live, and then you gave me a reading, and the first thing you said to me was, "I have fairy blood."
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. You're like, wait, is that a thing?
I do remember.
It's a thing now.
She's one of us.
Yes. It is like the first thing that anyone who's intuitive at all always says is about, mentions the fairy, influence. But anyway, enough about me. I want to hear all about you, and I want everyone who's listening and watching to hear all about you. So tell us about, I don't know, your journey. Did you have an awakening? But even more importantly, what do you do now with your pink, beautiful, shiny,
Whatever
sparkly?
It takes. I'm just kidding. Okay. I'll try and give the short version.
No. This is all about you. No shortening.
Okay. Once upon a time.
Yes, that's how it starts.
Just a small town girl living in a Disney world. She took the monorail going anywhere. No, I had a very codependent, I don't use the word toxic because that's so cliche, but very
yes, I'm sure I do.
hectic environment. And
you had me at codependent.
I like to be, I don't know if it's because I'm a Virgo or life path 7, but I like to be alone a lot. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're lonely. I like private boundary space to be able to think and create. And so I didn't have that in Connecticut. And I met a lovely Indian prince he's a prince to me, that we started vacationing at Disney as my personal escape. And he agreed to let us move down here. So we lived 5 minutes away. And everything I wanted to manifest about my dream life has been happening ever since. And I think a part of that is not letting your headspace get eclipsed by everybody else's voice,
Absolutely.
So it's hard to manifest if everyone's putting their voice in their head. You're manifesting what they want.
Yep.
right? It's almost I just had a vision of like, when teachers would cross off a word with a red pen. Back in the day, we used these things called pens. And they'd cross out the word in red and then correct whatever they want, or whatever grammar they wanted. And I think, family can do that. So it's nice to be the person holding the red pen in your life. And so I had a spiritual awakening in 2018, but didn't know what it was until 2019, which is, I'm sure, it's most people's story, is they didn't know until they knew, right? Intuitive people would tell me I have a gift and you're an oracle and you're an angel. I felt your energy from over here. And I didn't know like how powerful I was. I was very like insecure, tiptoed, peeked a little bit out of the psychic closet, like, that's not me. I thought everything was witchcraft and sorcery and evil. That's how I was raised. So you start to, as your values change, it's interesting how I was just obsessed with like makeup. And I used to call crystals rocks, and I thought people who had them were stupid, and I thought tarot was witchcraft. Now I have a crystal collection and a tarot collection. I sell that. And so I would do intuitive readings for people, just to share messages from people that passed on and, their spirit family. And people kept asking me, do you do tarot? Do you do tarot? And I'd say, no, I don't, I don't need it. I can just pull messages. And they said, it's not for you. It's for them. Pictures help people remember it. And it just clicked. And so I got a deck. A Disney one.
A Disney tarot deck. Now, does Disney actually sell that? Or is it like
no, ma'am.
It's a hijacked kind of deal, right? Like there's no, they don't even let they don't even let their cast members, which is what they call employees. They don't let their cast members, at least they didn't until pretty recently, have like facial hair. Do they still do that? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, now they can have facial hair. They can paint their nails.
Wow. Racy, but no tarot. No official tarot.
Unofficial, no. Well, they have a villains deck that is on Amazon.
Ooh, that Disney puts out?
Yeah.
I want that. I love the villains.
Yeah.
Did you see the new Cruella movie with what's her name?
I have the jacket. Oh, do you want to hear something fun?
Yes, always.
With the Cruella, do you remember the Baroness? Yeah, of course you do. She's unforgettable. Throughout the movie, I saw it with my mother. I kept grabbing her arm going, I know who designed that jewelry. My favorite jewelry designer is in this entire movie.
Really?
And I probably should have wore it now that I'm talking about it. But it's Alexis Bittar, and I have semi-photographic memory. And I kept going, I almost bought that bracelet. I wanted those earrings. And so like everything she's wearing is from one designer. And I was like, oh my God, I have good taste. Anyway, that's just my own connection to the movie.
That's wonderful. I love it.
Thank you. And so one thing I do want to share with anybody listening is, as much as we want to, people say, that you control your life, you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes destiny controls you. And what I mean by that is eventually the universe will scream out your destiny and your fate through other voices, through other mouths, other tongues, until you close your mouth and you listen. So like, I didn't choose the fairy godmother life. The fairy godmother life chose me. Like literally anything, like I'm not trying to be like, I'm the fairy godmother forever. But everybody would call me that. And they started calling me the HFIC. And
HFIC, what's that?
Is the head fairy in charge.
Ooh, I like it.
So it's from another acronym, from a reality star would say, I'm the HBIC, which you can fill that in. Charge, yes, yeah.
I think it's a bitch.
And okay. So I remember I was like, what does that mean? Everyone just kept calling me that. And then my husband like, head fairy in charge. Hello. And I was like, oh.
That's so awesome.
But I mean, I lean into it because I love everybody. So okay, so let me get to how I started Fairytales and Cocktails.
Yeah.
I love cocktails. And I love fairy tales.
So you don't know this about me because we just met. Before I shifted over to this line of work as an, spiritual teacher, intuitive and everything. My previous occupation was mixologist, and I worked for...
I had a feeling.
You did?
I just did. I don't know why. I was like, I bet her and I could make a recipe book or something.
Oh, coming in 2023. Everyone. Yeah, I was a mixologist. I worked, I was behind the bar for many, many years. When Los Angeles had like a cocktail renaissance, and I was one of the it girls I'm not bragging now. It's just true. There were like 3 of us, and they wrote articles about us over and over. And then I got a job with a national distributor. And so I traveled all around Southern California, training bars and bartenders and stuff like that, and putting cocktail menus into their rest. Anyway, I thought I'm pulling on my fairy ancestry with that, because of being herbalist, being, wild
the
potions.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. One time my husband was like, he never asks me for cocktails anymore, because I moved out of the industry, and he just doesn't feel, I don't know, he doesn't drink that much anyway. And he's like, I want a cocktail. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. What do you want? And he's like, I don't know. And so I gave him a hug, and then I was like, I know what you want, because I pulled it in from my solar plexus, and then I gave it to him, and he's like, how did you know? Like, he was like, I don't even know how you knew exactly what I wanted. I never could have articulated. And he's like, what's in it? And I remember saying, well, it's got a 1/4 ounce of Benedictine. He's like, a 1/4 ounce? You could feel a 1/4 ounce in me of something I wanted. So, but what's your deal? What do you like about cocktails?
They taste good.
You like to make them?
I do not. My husband used to be a bartender.
Really?
And
cool.
So we have the Bartesian, which is like the automatic bar thing.
Oh, okay.
So they have like the mixes that come with the edible glitter, and so your martini's all fancy.
That's cute.
Makes me mudslides. But when I'm out, I have 2 signatures. Like, one, I'll either have a French 75, or I'll have a blueberry vodka lemonade. But I like them to like muddle the blueberries or blackberries, It's because Florida, it's so refreshing. So
yes.
Good. So I use I call myself the card tender, which is kind of like a bartender, but it's cards. Yeah. And so my service menu is like a cocktail menu. So I have like the love reading is Love Potion number 9.
Love it.
My reading with the Frozen Disney Tarot is Frozen Margarita.
That's so cool. Yeah.
The Spirit Baby reading is called a mocktail.
Yes. Because they're babies.
I try to, yeah. And then I use, if I'm just doing cards, I call it straight up, like they're just shots. Mm-hmm. So you're buying like 5 shots. And then like I do dice readings as well. So when they're ordering their reading, their cocktail, they can have it if they ask for it on the rocks. It's with the dice.
That's rad.
Then with a twist is the charms.
What kind of charms? What charms do you do?
Well, I just do charm casting I have silver charms and bronze and some gold ones. Some were collected and some were bought.
Awesome. So you are, you're an intuitive reader and a card tender. You read cards and you do all kinds of divination, it sounds like, what are the kinds of, are they special dice that you use? Because I've never actually met anyone who uses dice. Like there's runes and there are...
You will soon. The biggest form of flattery is like there's a lot of people doing it now. So I buy story dice. I buy card games from like the children's and the game aisle, like at Target. If I'm in a bookstore, if I'm in a toy store, I go to the kids section, and I look through all the boxes of card games that have dice in it. And sometimes I buy, the sets just for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 dice, like, and they're a little rare, but I can get a lot from the pictures. And I sell sets like that on my Etsy as well, because I'm trying to encourage new readers, especially, that they don't have to, just do cards. Because I've had so many people say, I don't know if I can do readings anymore. I don't connect with cards. And so I'm like, I like to have little exploratory sets for them so that they can kind of get like their hand, almost like in kindergarten when they have the kids doing the little sensories with colors and shapes and blocks, and they're learning. But not to take it, not that this is like, elementary, but it is, so it is a kinesthetic process that's subjective.
That's true.
And I wish somebody had like held my hand in the beginning and was like, try this, try that, try this. And for some people, they might connect with charms immediately and not cards, or vice versa, but they won't know unless they get their hands on it or they're encouraged. So even with letters, I sell little gumball letter dispensers. They're sparkly. So you turn the little knob and the little letters come out and you can get a message from that. But it's still like people that do videos, it makes it, entertaining.
And now for these messages.
Do you have a sense that there's more to life than what you can see?
Maybe you've had vivid spiritual dreams, experienced odd patterns and synchronicities, or even had hunches or premonitions that ended up being accurate.
You know there's more to this life, but at the same time, you feel blocked or stuck and like you don't even know where to start.
That's all about to change. Lightshine Spiritual Academy presents the Intuitive Intensive, a groundbreaking 8-week program designed to blast open your intuitive abilities and catapult you into a dynamic, connected, and psychic life.
Here's what graduates of the Intuitive Intensive have to say.
This program has been game-changing, life-changing.
There's no going back. I can't unsee all the things that I've seen. I can't unfeel all the things that I've felt. It's been life-changing, not just because of everything that I've learned, but everything that I've experienced.
Join spiritual teachers Crystal Ann Compton and Tricia Carr in this immersive program of education, high vibration, and group coaching.
I have found my purpose and my calling. I really came in to find myself, and that was one of the biggest gifts, is finding my true path.
Read all about the curriculum and register now by going to class.lightshineacademy.com/2022II. Class begins the week of January 23rd, 2022.
If you feel called to it, if it gets you excited in your heart, if it feels joyful, do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Once upon a time, there was this guy whose father was into tech and designed video games. They owned an arcade called Flynn's Arcade, and he thought his dad ran away. So he goes into the arcade at night one day as an adult. He's like all drunk and upset. And he turns on the game and he gets sucked into the game. And it turns out his dad was sucked into the game. And they're inside this thing called the grid. And everything's like, bright blue lights, and it glows. They're actually making a roller coaster called Tron Legacy here, where you go through and it's dark, but everything's lit, kind of illuminated, like black light.
Yeah.
And so I have like a little claw machine and stuff. So when I do my lives at night now, I call it Flynn's Arcade after the movie Tron. And I'm trying to make it fun,
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring out people. I guess that's what you could say. I'm trying to bring out people's like their inner child.
Yes.
There's different like ways to do that and give them permission. It doesn't, take it seriously, but it doesn't have to be serious.
Right. Absolutely. I do remember Tron now, as you were telling the story. I remember, and I do love it. That is so important, because the innocence of a child, and actually it's all, the resources all there in your inner child. If you did have a traumatic or abusive or toxic childhood, as we're like, everybody has. But if you did, our difficulties really have to do with that wounded inner child. So if we can let that child out in his or her most pristine potential, then I think that's the secret of life, to be able to move back to before there was harm into the healed state, and then let that healed state healed. Yes. But at the same, like you said, take it seriously, because if we're talking about divination, and we're also talking about someone else's psyche, if we're giving readings, of course we take it seriously. But if we do take it seriously and there's reverence overall, then play is probably the most intuitive and creative thing we can do.
What I found for myself was that I tried to grow up too fast. I don't even know why, but I think it's because I'm like an old soul, young heart. So I was always the kid that was friends with the teachers, and I wanted to be included in all the adult conversation, because you're in the kid in the back seat and they're all talking and you're like, what's going on? and you feel so excluded. And I think for me, wanting to grow up so quickly was to be included. So now it's kind of like you almost, for people, if you're listening and you felt like you tried to grow up too fast, it's almost like your inner child pressed pause, and sometimes you find an outlet where you can press play again.
Yes.
And you're kind of like, I'm gonna say re-raising yourself, but it's like, hey, I can't let go of the pause button. There's no consequence. I think people were afraid that they're going to be seen as immature or uncouth if they have fun with things. But I love to encourage you all to repurpose things, and it's not for attention, but it's a lot of it's because you can.
Well, that's one of the things, especially if you're like, working intuitively and authentically, when one of the ways to kind of hone in on what it is you want to be when you grow up, or what your purpose is, or what a career is for you, is to look at what you were doing as a kid. And, how did you play as a kid? And one of the things that's remarkable to me is I was carrying around a tape recorder and interviewing my family. And then I ended up doing this, and I was like trying to hold their attention in something that was inspiring by putting on little dances or something like that. Some of that was like trauma management, because if they were laughing at the little kid, then they weren't hitting each other. But at the same time, just there's nothing more pure, natural, and spiritual than a child's creativity, innocence, and that all comes out in play. So yeah, I like that, unpausing it. So you actually are making basically your own divination tools, what with the dice that you collect through different games, and what else? Yeah, that's amazing. What else is on your, and then the dispenser game and the gumball machine. This is super.
Yeah, what else? I make displays too, like card displays. I make I'm making right now these tiny little bling cauldrons. I'm going to do, I think what other people call them is like confetti. I'm going to call them cauldron cuties, where you can get like dice, letters, numbers, charms, whatever is going to come out, right? And whatever is going to fit in the cauldron for you, so that, somebody has like something that they can get messages from. I also made a bunch of like yes, no, Mickey. They're like little Mickey heads, but you can put them like on top of a card, you know what I mean, to just kind of like enhance it. I do have a deck that
they're like
I
talismans.
created called I have a deck I created called My Fairytale is Real. It's chapter 1. I have other chapters written, but I wanted to kind of release one a year. So this is 2022 coming up. So then chapter 2 will be released.
That's great.
And it's in the shape of a heart.
Oh, wow. You mean the deck?
Which I love.
The deck is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. How many? Tell us about the deck. So it's, how many cards is it? Is it like an oracle
55
deck?
cards. It's a message deck. So when I would get anxiety, I would tell my friends and my family, I'd say, tell me something good. And sometimes they didn't take it seriously. Sometimes they did. So good things would come out, and they almost seem like basic messages. So I guess like, if you're not needing to hear it, it looks like a simple message, but if you're needing to hear it, it's the message. It's your message. So one of them says like, tell me something good. One of them says like, here's some truth bombs. So whatever comes out after that is like the truth. I have a lot of unprinted decks that I've written. I'm going to work on with that. I have a lot of projects, so those get put on the back burner.
I hear you. I do too.
Well, I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem. It was not problem, but it's a good challenge to have. Time management, because you're so. I do some spiritual coaching, because I noticed like during my spiritual awakening and stuff, when I would follow a lot of spiritual accounts, how a lot of them were good with being in the present, which is great, because they think if you're thinking about the future too much, you're part of the matrix and you have anxiety and this and that. But I felt the opposite. I felt like you can be spiritual and have a successful business. You can be spiritual and ambitious. It's not a sin to be. It doesn't mean you're greedy and money hungry. But I kind of look after my mother, where the more you have, the more you can give.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when you're doing things that are, how do I say this? Like, I guess I like to use the word fun. Maybe it's because like I like to have fun, and you know, I live by Disney, but I'm like, this is great. How do we make it fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think when people see that, it's kind of like, you know, they say like, do what you love and the money will follow and stuff. I like to reward generosity too. So when, you know, people have sent me things and I've sent things back to them, and or I'll pay it forward, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's wonderful. I love that. And so we do have your Etsy store link in however you're listening or watching, because I can't wait to get in there and have a blast. And you gave us a special link for the listeners, right?
Yep.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Charmed Life 15 is the code.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you.
So you get 15% off.
That's amazing. Thank you. And so divination and, you know, intuitive reading, and now you're doing coaching as well, which is really great. And, you know, we were chatting before we started. Sorry, everyone, we cheated on you a little bit, but we were chatting about, we were talking about boundaries and, you know, basically how to move through life, figuring out, you know, how to work with when it's appropriate to set boundaries, or what to move through relationships. And so let's get into that. You have a perspective that you really feel on your heart that is important for us to discuss and important to share today. Yes.
Yeah. I notice a lot of people leave things, you know, advice, and we know it's not, advice isn't universal, but they'll say, okay, and I'm quick to do it. That's why I'm bringing this up, to be like, block, just boundary. It'll be family. Goodbye. And you know, my husband's like, there's got to be some kind of compromise. You have to see them at some point. So some people will think, okay, I set up this big boundary to protect myself, right? And to protect all the healing I worked so hard on. Especially and so there's this fear of consequence
when you've had like a spiritual awakening, right? Like when you've had a spiritual awakening, right? Especially that's kind of like what we see since we're in this community. You've had a spiritual awakening. Now it's time to set up boundaries, right?
Right. Because you repel, it's like your energies repel each other.
Yeah.
And then people like you and I who are like magic, like find each other, like
exactly.
moms to a flame. And so you kind of feel like, okay, you'll love this expression. You get like whiskey face, listen to the conversation sometime, and you're like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about astrology. I'm on that moon? No, okay, cool.
Do they not even know it's an eclipse? Like, why are they talking about the president?
I'll like explain it. And that was a tough thing before I like knew I was intuitive, was telling people I told you so, or you know, like,
yeah, it doesn't work.
But I think once you do it like professionally, and I state that a lot, because there are some people who do it for fun and hobbies, and there's some people like, you should never charge, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go to Target, and when I'm checking out, say, listen, I've got all these good vibes.
Well, I know, and there's
some more where that came from.
That's honestly like some old programming from dogma and the church and everything, because, you know, when people say like, why would you charge for an intuitive reading? It comes from God. Well, so does healing, but you pay your doctor. So does food, but you pay the grocery store. You can go pick your own apples and, you know, lettuce, but you do, you know, you go to an intuitive reader because you want their skills, their talents, their objectivity. But yeah, you have connection to God or whatever source it is that you think of. So that's why we charge, because there's a monetary system, and I didn't set it up on my own. I got to pay for my food. I got to pay for my doctor.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, whatever. That's okay though, too, because that's just people releasing some old conditioning, you know, that's when you think about it.
That's the thing too. We talk about like spirit, like I think I mentioned about how some people, we almost see like there's a lot of people in the spiritual community that have money wounds. And I'm not saying they don't like money, but they're like afraid to ask for it, kind of like shy or to. I had a number of, I don't know if you call them colleagues or other people in the industry say like, I have to raise my price. I'm so nervous. I'm nervous. And I'm like, you're worth it.
Yeah. And it's actually really good to have your price set at, this is what I always teach my students. Like, you want it to be at a level that you're a little nervous about, because that means it's summoning your integrity. It's summoning your excitement to do your best and be available. I don't know. That's my measure. Maybe nervous is not the right word, but the way that's going to like make you go, someone wants to pay me for that.
They think it's going to give them sticker shock, or because I thought that in the beginning too. I'm like, oh, like, well, then what if I get like new? That's the opposite happens, and I kind of feel like when you tell the universe, I believe in my skills.
Yeah,
I'm worth at a minimum this much for my time and what I bring, and the universe is like, you're right.
Yeah, universe is like, what's money? You guys are obsessed with it. Like, whatever. It's just one of the things you can play with. But man, it does touch trigger points, doesn't it? So relationships, money, these are all things that provoke us to have these thoughts about triggers and boundaries, right?
Yeah, because I think there's some people that think too, there are some readers that are well off, and I think some people think things like, oh, they don't need my business, or they don't need tips or whatever. They're already successful. They already, have money, but they work just as hard. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think too, people can feel like, the giver, that people aren't being greedy, but they have people talk about self-love, and part of that is self-respect and self-confidence.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're respecting your own time. If you don't respect your own time, how do you expect other people to do it? If you don't believe you're worth this, how do you expect other people to believe you're worth this? Right. So once you kind of send that out, and not as like, not to be like cocky, but when you're like, okay, universe, I believe you. Everybody has given me this feedback, and to your point, like confirmed, like you're like, this isn't an opinion. When more than 3 people keep bragging about it, they say it's a fact when more than 3 people. But when you're like, okay, well, there's articles written, there's I don't say like there's proof, like about
social proof. There's social proof.
Yeah,
that's
mixology.
Yeah,
right. But like with the demand, like Colette Baron Reed charges about like 8 times what I do, but it's her time.
Yeah.
And the demand, so if I'm not with clients, I'm creating things. But I believe in what's called kinetic energy, and that we leave energetic handprints, so to speak, on things that we make and touch. And sometimes you'll get something that you order, and you're like, wow, I could tell this was made with love.
Yeah,
like when you made your husband that drink, and he's like, this did hit the spot.
Yeah.
You made it with love, and intuition. So I like to know that, I don't want to say like everything I make is my legacy, but I don't have children yet. So if I passed on or whatever, at least I know I have like my psychic kinetic energy around the world, and people, it'll kind of like help them.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's beautiful. I can see this picture of all the imprints you're leaving on the field, and they're all, you do it with love. And one of the things that I always default to is love works every time. And that's why we give love unconditionally. It's not my business. If I give love unconditionally, that means it's somebody else's love. So if I can give it, if I can be something in this scenario, give that kinetic energy and print it on the field, that's it. I did my thing. My legacy. I like it. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it's funny. There's people that you can get things from like anywhere, or hear things from anywhere, or get readings from anywhere. But you know how you said, oh, I was you're like, I was drawn to you. It's more like I recognized you,
Yes,
so to
absolutely.
speak.
Yes.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I think it's like that with, even if you don't see a face behind something, some people will just be drawn to something that you make.
Yes, that's how it was with me, because for a while I didn't see your face because I'm not that good on Instagram because I'm old. And so I like see something and
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hear it out.
I am, though. It's okay. And I saw like your cards or something like that. So then the first time I saw you was when you were live, and I was like, oh, I was just drawn to the brand. But the brand is you. It's your imprint. It's that kinetic energy you're talking about. So yeah, absolutely. Very cool. And then when I saw the face, I was like, oh, look at that face, though. It's pretty.
One of the things I want to talk about too, really quick, I just thought about this.
Yeah.
What I remembered with, your spiritual awakening is I felt like I was playing catch up. Because there's people who had their spiritual awakenings, I don't know, when they're like 15. They were doing what I was doing for like 30 years.
Okay, but I was 40, just so you know. I was 40, so I feel you. It was definitely older than however old you are or were. But yeah, I was 40 when I had my awakening.
Did you feel like you were playing catch up?
I don't know. I was kind of isolated for a while, and for a while, I even remember like it was very private. It was a very private experience. I was going to like a class that had like 5 people in it, and those people rotated even. So it was long enough ago that I wasn't delving into it on social media in any way. So I didn't have a community. And I even remember the first time I heard someone on a video say spiritual community, I bristled at it because I was like, oh, that sounds like church. I don't want to go back to church.
Oh, yeah.
But I love spiritual community. It's very important. It is very important, actually. And that was something I was healing. So, no, I didn't think about that I don't know. I just didn't think about that for a while, at least a while. But I understand.
I felt that way business-wise.
Oh, sure. Well, we can always feel that way.
Because, like, I had just, like, started a page, and, like, everybody else's are, like, like 20,000 people. And then, but at the same time, I had tons of business, and people were like, okay, follower count doesn't matter. Just because they have 20,000 followers doesn't mean that those are 20,000 customers.
That's true.
Where, like, most years are customers. So a lot of that is, ego. And, people talk about ego death. And, like, the ego and the id are part of you. You can't kill your ego. So they say ego death. I'm like, or is it a lesson learned? I like to say, like, you're learning lessons. That's just my personal belief,
Yes.
Ego death, kill your ego. I'm like, you can't, though.
No, your ego.
So you shave your eyebrow, it's gonna grow back.
Yeah, your ego keeps you alive. I mean, that's its fundamental job, is to keep you physically alive. But yeah, I know, and I think that I wonder if ego death. I've heard that obviously before, and a lot of people refer to it when they're doing plant medicine, psychedelics. And I guess it's just to basically see behind the curtain. I think that's what it is, right? And to realize that you are the wizard after all. I don't know, but I think maybe it is misused if we're talking about ego death, and somehow you don't have, this part of you that is afraid of death. Like, that's impossible. That's just being physical being, right?
Or afraid of being wrong.
Yes, which is afraid of dying. Afraid of being wrong is being afraid of being rejected by your caregivers or your peer group or the tribe. And then therefore you're afraid of dying, like all of it is really just connected to death. All of that fear is. Yeah. But yeah.
I had a few nights ago, I had a dream where I heard something. I heard, get your affairs in order.
Ooh.
And then I was like thinking, is that about me? And then I started crying because I was like, I don't have much to give my husband if I die. Oh my God. I don't know. I was like all upset about that, but I was like, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of, still, even in my death, afraid of, am I not giving enough?
No.
Right? That people pleasing energy. But gifts are like my love language. So I'm like, oh my God, I have to leave him something. But then it turned out it was my grandfather. My mother's like, yeah, he's leaving.
Oh, so you were just picking up a message for your family.
Yeah.
So you're a medium as well. I mean, obviously you're talking about that. Yeah. So when did mediumship open up for you into your...
When my great grandmother passed on, I was about 15, but like I just knew I kept having dreams of her sitting in the kitchen watching me, sitting on my bed watching me, and like I knew the date, and I knew she was going to die after Christmas, so she died December 26th. And I had a few more dreams after that, but my like the mediumship that happened like intensified, and I would say allow it, but you can give yourself some grace and permission. It's almost like when you start welcoming your spiritual awakening instead of panicking and trying to shove it back in the closet, so to speak, right? Push it under the rug.
Yeah.
You know, things, it's almost like you get more rewarded because like you can try and push it away, and then like I said, the universe will like follow you.
Yeah.
That's why people are like, whether they want it to happen or not, yeah, it'll happen. And so once I was like allowing it, because I realized, wait a minute, I can help people. Wait a minute, this is what I can give back to, you know, the people of Gaia. And so that was good. Once I was like, okay, I can help people, because they called it something different how it's raised. They call it being prophetic. So in the churches, the prophetic people would say, you're prophetic. You're going to be prophetic. And when I was little, I'd get tarot readings, like 14, you know, and the first thing they said every time was, you have the gift, but I didn't think I did. I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. What is she talking about? So yeah, I'm very, I was a little jealous. Like I said, in the beginning, I felt like I was playing catch up. I'm like, I love who I am now. I wish I've been like this for all of those years. Like my life would be so different. And like I said, I wish I knew how to use this divination back then, but everything happened so that I can tell the story. Like, hey, let me help you so you don't miss out on all this. But I kind of felt like I was let in on the secret that was in front of me the whole time. Everybody knew. Even going through my jewelry, I was like, I have it with this necklace. I have this. What jackpot? It was like people were getting me. Oh, and that's another thing. People kept sending me crystals, and I didn't know what they do. I didn't know what. And I remember the first piece of moldavite. I had this crystal friend, you know, friend that loves crystal.
Yeah.
And he put it in my hand, and I was like, he didn't say anything. He's like, open your hand. He put it in. And I was like, okay, why is this tingling? And he's like, oh, you're one of us. I knew it. And I was like, okay, buddy. He tried to show me my natal chart. You need to know this. I was like, no, I don't. Get out of here. I'm watching TV. And now I'm like, oh my God, I needed to know it.
I remember when I came out of the broom closet, and I thought it's time for me to tell all these people and like have conversations with people. And it was like I was expecting a big like upheaval and expecting, you know, expect people that like, oh, they're kind of religious. And every person that I told, they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, where are we going to lunch?
I was gonna say they're probably like, yeah, of course. You know, it's like when some people come out of the
broom closet,
their sexual preference closet,
sure,
right? And people are like, well, duh, or yeah, we knew, or whatever. And you're like,
oh, good, we can be normal now about it.
Oh, you want to hear something bad?
Well, yes, always.
When I told my grandmother, because I was nervous, you know, like nervous, like because it's hard when you try to say, I work with these, try to tone it down. These angel cards are like, you know, like messages, but instead of in a book, they're on cards and they help people. And she's like, oh, angel cards. Oh yeah, my grandmother used to do that for a living. We knew you'd be just like her. So like all this time growing up,
they didn't tell you. Like, they didn't tell you the secret.
Secret family person. I did this for a living and was very successful at it. And so all these signs growing up, them telling me I'm prophetic, me having these dreams, me telling, they never nurtured it.
Yeah.
They were just like, nope, whatever. And I was just like, really? So, and that's what I mean, where you can run from your destiny. And well, one of the cards in my deck says, destiny is stronger than your doubt.
Ooh.
And
amen.
You can be like, you can doubt a million things. And then Destiny's like, ha ha ha!
Yeah.
Hold my beer. What's this? And so even though it's kind of like it reminded me of Sleeping Beauty. I love Sleeping Beauty. How even though they took all the spindles out of the kingdom, it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. She was meant to prick her finger. She did. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so it was like they wanted to kind of almost like, I don't want to say like they all got together and were like, don't let her be like this. Or they thought I would become like Bellatrix from Harry Potter, but you know, when you reflect back, you know, and you know, speaking of your childhood and stuff, you're like, oh man, I love Charmed and Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Bewitched.
I know exactly.
All those shows.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's so funny. You just mentioned Bewitched, and my dad passed in 2016, and he came to me. He's like trying to figure out how to be a spirit guide now and try to figure out how to connect with his family. And so he came to me in a dream, and we had this whole thing, and he was looking in the dream. It was like an astral dream. He was looking for my half sister, and he kept saying, where's Samantha, which is not her name at all. And he kept saying Samantha. But as soon as I woke up, I knew he was talking about Samantha from Bewitched, because she liked that show when she was little. And she has this whole thing where she was like, she's very witchy and she's very like spiritual, but she got really scared, like had a bad incident when she was a teenager with a Ouija board. Back in the 70s when it was all like demonized and frightening and everything. And so he was actually like, if the message was like, I could reach her if she could reach out a little bit to me, like through her spiritual side, but she's like kind of got it shut down. And he's trying really hard because he's just figuring out how to do this. So he's like, gave me this clue with Samantha. It's so far from what her name is. And I just saw like Samantha from Bewitched when I woke up.
What is her name?
Well, I guess you could find it on Facebook if you want. Her name's Tina. And he would have called her. Okay. It's funny. He was saying Samantha. And I was inferring underneath, even though he was saying Samantha, Tina Louise, because that's what he would call her if he like affectionately use her whole name. So it was, really interesting. But yes, those stories come up a lot on this podcast. Well, I didn't really know, but I really loved Charmed. And yeah.
I saw a jack-o'-lantern when you mentioned your father.
Really?
Yeah, like a car. You know what I mean? When someone's carving a pumpkin.
I should check when I had the dream. It may have been right around then, actually. I think it was right around then. I should check.
Yeah, we could chit-chat personally another time. About all that, or all the stuff I get from that. I have two connections for what you just said. That's why I'm like kind of smirking. One is my spirit daughter name is Tabitha from that show.
Oh, I loved her so much. She had to wiggle her nose with her finger.
Yeah, she's so cute. And the other thing is, I don't know if you saw Frozen 2.
I don't think I did. No, I just saw one. Okay. I'm sorry.
Olaf is this enchanted snowman. He's lost in the woods. Uh-huh. And he's looking for Elsa, Queen Elsa. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Elsa, Anna. And he's looking for Anna. And then he looks in the hole and he goes, Samantha, wait, I don't even know a Samantha. And that was something that was like ad-lib, but he kept saying that. It was like, I don't even know a Samantha. So I was like laughing because that sounds exactly like the part in the movie. And you're like, wait a minute.
We don't know a Samantha, Daddy.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So I don't know, maybe there's a sign for you in that movie Frozen 2. Okay. So that movie is kind of like almost like a spiritual awakening journey too.
Oh, it's a beautiful.
Elsa has magic powers, and people treat her like she's so different because she's the only one in her environment. You know, like the black sheep of the family. She's the only one in her environment with the powers. So she thinks there's something wrong with her. Meanwhile, her mom's actually an enchantress that's from another land across this bridge that was like frozen in time or whatever, not on purpose. And so she's discovering her roots, and it was kind of like that too. I related so much. She's like, wait, everyone here is magic? Wait, I'm from this part? This is normal? I'm not cuckoo? I belong here. Yeah. And that's kind of like when I moved to Florida, I'm like, I belong here among the other magicians and sorcerers. And by sorcerers, I mean Sorcerer Mickey.
Yes.
So in that movie, she's like, she loves her family, but she understands like she needs to go where she's nurtured. And she's like, I'll visit, but I don't need to live there. And you know, circling back to that subject on, everyone's like, well, just close that door and put everything behind you. But sometimes you don't have a choice because it's family.
Yeah.
So people, I think, are afraid of the consequence. Like, am I going to, I worked so hard to get here. Am I going to relapse in a second? Yes and no. You might be hurt, but you bounce back so quick.
Right.
Where before you might cry for hours. Now this time it's like, you learn what you learn to self-soothe, so to speak. That's a big thing I learned.
Yes.
So it's self-soothing.
And sometimes we're called to take that higher vibrational kinetic energy that you're talking about and put it in that environment that needs, you created these soul contracts with these people. So maybe sometimes it's boundaries, and maybe sometimes it's going into combat, if you will, a little bit, softening that and bringing that beautiful, loving energy there and leaving it, right? Maybe that's what we have to balance, I think. I think that's a very important message for us to think about.
I'm just remembering now. Sorry, this is a different topic.
That's okay. I like it.
I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just remembering because I'm kind of like reflecting back on my spiritual awakening and the questions people would ask me. One of them was, when you're meditating, how do you get to the fifth dimension, or how do you clear things out? And I found out I want to say like the secret sauce.
Ooh, yes.
Right? Is the secret to your cocktail here. Is and that for me was creating what people call euphoria, is actually activating bliss in all of your senses. So if you were to ask somebody what's your favorite movie or their favorite song, usually they say the title with a huge grin. They're like, oh, Count Monte Cristo, or I would say, oh, Labyrinth, but I would say it like, smiling. It's that instant smile.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing. So I say like, go to take a bath because water's healing.
Yes.
Or take a shower, but I say bath, right? So now you have the touch of the water. Then I say, get your favorite taste. I don't care, like if it's pistachio, get some pistachio ice cream, chocolate, whatever your favorite taste is. Get like a candle or a bubble bath scent of your favorite scent, right? So now you have touch, taste, scent, and then you can, if you love the sound of rain, listen to rain. It doesn't have to be like the meditation music. It's something, that brings you automatic bliss, or your favorite singer. So a lot of times when people go to meditate, what are you doing? You're probably sitting in the dark and you're just listening to something that doesn't help your taste. That, you know what I mean? That doesn't help your touch. That doesn't help your smell that much. Well, I guess some people light incense, but and nobody goes like, oh man, I smell incense, and I just go, woo, bliss, right? Yes, you need to relax, but ultimately your highest vibration is love and joy. So yeah, you need to relax, but you can relax and be smiling at the same time. You know what I mean? So the key is to raise your vibration, and you don't need to be like a Zen zombie to do that. I'm not saying to never go and relax, but I think the fastest way to connect to the messages you're supposed to get is when it's almost like, if you can picture this, you're a little kid, or you could be an adult. You're standing in line for a ride, your favorite ride, and you can hear the parade going, and you're eating cotton candy. It smells so good, and you're with your family, and it's an all-encompassing, and that's one of the things I love about like Disney. It hits all of your senses. It just gives you euphoria all in one place at once. And most people are highly vibrational. That's another question I get, is how do you do crowds if you're empathic? I can't do muggle crowds. So Disney, almost everybody, I want to say it's like you get like high, but you're like, everybody's happy.
Yeah,
so
it's the
most
magic
people
kingdom.
are happy,
Yeah.
right? Now, when it gets crowded and people are ready to leave, you feel like a million people are touching you, even if they're not touching you. It's like and that's what most people feel like that are empathic in crowded areas. So, but this is like, like I said, it's the opposite though. Everybody is like,
yeah.
But you know what? When you have days like that, where like, hey, people get, not very horrific news all the time, and so you're like, I need to go to my happy place, it's right there. So if some people, not everybody can go to their happy place, but you can make a happy you.
Yes.
And like I said, it makes such a difference hitting up all those senses at once.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it don't care how silly it is. I don't care if you're like, man, I love Snickers or that. Okay, but do it all together. And even if you're not meditating, just people. I feel like people should have like a little emergency kit like that.
Yeah. Well, it would. I mean, technically, it would be if it shifts your state into something that is more positive. Then that would be a form of meditation. So, absolutely, I like that, a little emergency kit. It's like the glass is made of like sugar, so you can like break that glass like a creme brulee topping. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sounds so sweet.
Well, you go live on Instagram frequently, is that right?
When I have time, yeah. I'm trying to do more themed now. Like I have my claw machine, and I designed these little pendulums. I don't know if you've seen them.
No.
The sparkle ones.
Ooh, cool.
I call it a pixie pendulum. So people ask questions like, "Is this happening soon?" So I have one of the options is soon or later, and then yes or no, and then I put surprise, where a lot of the pendulums will say always, never, which I think are kind of harsh. And because you have yes or no, so that's the same deal. And then I'll have the maybe. I hate maybe. I'm like, because usually it's supposed to be a surprise. They don't want you to know yet, so I put surprise.
Oh, I love that. Do you know what your human design is? Your human design type? You have to find out because I think you're a manifesting generator, but we'll find out. Anyway, I'm a reflector.
Oh, I am a manifester.
You're a manifester or a manifesting generator?
Yeah, I think what you just said, because one of my friends asked the same thing last year. She was like, she did the test and that's what I got, or something about teacher creator. I don't know. Something about creating something.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I'm a reflector and my signature is surprise. So you got me. You got me with your pendulum. That's my life is supposed to be all surprise when I'm in my life.
Well, what I think for you, like what I saw when you said, I would like to go interview people, right? I feel like that's a beautiful message that you're telling everybody. Your story matters. Your story matters. Yours does too. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon of Robin Hood, the Maid Marian, and he's like a little fox.
Yes.
In the beginning, they have this rooster. He's got a little banjo, and he's the narrator basically. Yeah. And he's like about to tell the story, and then he turns the page, and that just reminds me of you. Like, you're like this narrator for people, and I feel like that's maybe something like you've always done, but you put value on people's stories. And I think that it's really important because it makes them feel heard. And for a lot of people, like I was saying, myself included, where one of their wounds was being excluded from conversation, like not being heard, So when you have the power, when you get older, to have a voice, I started this show called Throne Talks. Which maybe one day will be a podcast if I ever figure it out. I'm not very techy. It was just like daily readings I would do. It's kind of like TED Talks, but it's Throne Talks. And I just felt like, I don't say like silence, but even in the group chats you have with family, I would share stuff and it would be like crickets. I'm like, you guys don't care what I have to say. I'm going to go talk to people that want to listen to me. Yeah. They care what I have to say. And now I did it every day for like a year.
Wow.
It was a lot. Now I do it once in a while. But it was one of that things. It was like, you don't want to listen to me. Somebody else will. But that comes from being a little kid in the back seat. That's like, what are you guys saying? What? What? And you feel like the world's going on without you. It was like I wanted to be an adult so bad, just to be like in the conversation. Now look at us. We're adults having our own conversation. We made it.
And we're talking about being a kid.
Talking
about fairies and unicorns.
Yes. There's adult unicorns, right?
Well, I mean, unicorns are real.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love unicorns. Oh gosh, this has been so fun, Nilsa. I'm super excited about going and just rating your Etsy. And everyone, she has a beautiful Instagram and wonderful cocktail menu of services. I love, you were guided to share that personal practice, because that's one of the things I like to ask sometimes. What's a personal spiritual practice? And you shared all about the multisensory, raising your vibration through all of those multisensory inputs. And that's so fantastic. I just love it. So this has been really amazing. And I would seriously, you're my fellow fairy sister. So, we got to do this more, maybe. We got to do some more of this.
Absolutely, whenever you want. I love talking. I love talking. Talking's my favorite.
You're very good at it. Well, thank you so much for leaving your kinetic imprint here on the podcast. And I really appreciate you. You're really, really so inspiring and so magical.
Thank you for welcoming me into your space and introducing me to your audience. Hope they like me too.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope you had as much fun as I had in that conversation, just coming back to that childhood play, that childhood innocence and creativity. There is nothing more creative than a child at play. Well, I hope you will check out all of the links in the description, Nilsa's links, as well as the programs that are coming up with the Lightshine Spiritual Academy, including the Intuitive Intensive. Y'all gotta get into it. If you would like to up-level, blast open those psychic abilities, that's the place to be. All right, everyone, I really love you so much for being here. I hope you have been having a wonderful season and moving into a wonderful new year, new manifestation, new more being exactly who it is that you are, who you are designed to be, who you are creating and designing yourself. And with that, I will say thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.